Tantor Audio, a division of Recorded Books, presents The Estrogen Window, the breakthrough guide to being healthy, energized, and hormonally balanced through perimenopause, menopause, and beyond, by Mache Seibel, M.D. Narrated by Dr. Mache Seibel and Todd, McLaren.
This audiobook is packaged with bonus material, which has been included on the first audio and MP3 CD. If you downloaded this audiobook in a digital format, please visit Tantor.com and type The Estrogen Window into the search box. Follow the link to the book's page, then click on PDF Extra 1. When prompted, enter the access code WELLNESS to access the bonus material.
Introduction. If you're confused about and afraid to take estrogen, if you're taking estrogen and hoping you haven't made a dangerous mistake, if you're not taking estrogen and want to discover what its impact could be on your health, or if you're comfortable with your decision to take estrogen and just want to know more about it, The Estrogen Window is the book for you. It will eliminate your confusion, calm your fears, and answer all your questions. And answers to questions about estrogen are desperately needed. All you have to do is mention estrogen or hormone therapy, HT, to women, and you'll get a wide range of reactions from "estrogen saved my life during menopause" to "I hear hormone therapy can cause breast cancer." Since prescription estrogen was first introduced in 1942 to treat the symptoms of menopause, it has been called everything from a fountain of youth and a preventive for osteoporosis and heart disease to a cause of uterine cancer and dementia. At various times, estrogen has been vilified as a cause of breast cancer or heralded as a guard against breast cancer. No wonder women and their doctors are so confused. These inconsistent and contradictory reports have left women believing that using estrogen of Russian roulette, a treatment that could likely relieve their symptoms, but could potentially cost them their health or even their lives. Unfortunately, that kind of misinformation has caused millions of women to avoid estrogen or to take it with trepidation. Hormone therapy may save my life, but I've read so many articles and blog posts about how the stuff is toxic that I'm scared and would rather suffer with my menopause symptoms than take it. Nothing could be further from the truth. Hormone therapy is safe for the majority of women. I want you to know that and why. Whether or not you decide to take estrogen is the most important midlife medical decision you, as a woman, will make. Why do I say that? Because whether or not you take estrogen will affect almost every part of your body. Your skin, weight, breasts, brain, bones, bladder, mood, vagina, libido, and a whole lot more. Your decision will change your risk of major health conditions like osteoporosis, breast cancer, and dementia. Your choice will affect the quality of your sex life, mood, memory, skin, and weight control, as well as the quality of your work. I want you to be so well informed that you can decide whether or not to take estrogen with confidence and clarity. Helping women understand the power of estrogen is my passion. It's why I wrote The Estrogen Window. Why am I so passionate about this topic? It started well over a decade ago when my wife, Sharon, found out she had the BRCA, or breast cancer gene, that increased her risk of breast and ovarian cancers. She had both her ovaries and her fallopian tubes removed in February 2003 at an early age and immediately went into menopause. Because she was at an increased risk of breast cancer, her doctors felt she would only be able to take estrogen for 5 years at most. But my own research suggested she could and should take estrogen for a longer period of time, and her forward-thinking gynecologist agreed too. That's when I began trying to understand the estrogen window. I needed to figure out whether Sharon could be on estrogen for an extended period of time because I believed the benefits greatly outweighed the risks. The general consensus at the time was that Sharon should not continue taking estrogen for the long term because of the results of the 2002 Women's Health Initiative study, which I talk about later, and which had been published only 7 months earlier. I remember July 9th, 2002, like it was yesterday. I was seeing patients in my office just outside Boston, and the phone started ringing off the hook. My receptionist could not keep up as patient after patient called in a panic to find out what I thought of that day's headlines. Hormone replacement study, a shock to the medical system. It was the report heard round the world. This enormous reaction was in response to the terrifying news from the first Women's Health Initiative study, or WHI, published in the Journal of the American Medical Association. The first WHI study was on the risks and benefits of taking a combo pill called Prempro that contained the estrogen Premarin plus the synthetic progesterone Provera, medroxyprogesterone acetate, or MPA. That combo treatment was called estrogen progestogen therapy, or EPT. The WHI was prematurely discontinued because Prempro reportedly caused an increased risk of breast cancer, heart attacks, blood clots, and stroke. Every woman who was taking any form of estrogen at that time was concerned. And we're talking about millions and millions of women. It was a very long day that overflowed into the weeks and months to come. I'm not sure how many of my patients threw away their estrogen that day, or how many millions of women around the globe stopped taking Prempro. But I do know that day in 2002 marked the beginning of a medical tsunami. Women and their doctors were caught in a crossfire of anger, fear, distrust, suffering, and a lack of answers. Estrogen was and is the most effective treatment for most of the symptoms of menopause. But after the 2002 WHI report was published, every patient visit included a question something like, should I be taking estrogen or not? If I take it, will I get breast cancer and die? In 2004, a second WHI report was published that evaluated the risks and benefits of the estrogen Premarin without Provera, called estrogen therapy, or ET. And the results were strikingly different. Estrogen alone was given to women who had had a hysterectomy. They did not need Provera to prevent estrogen from causing cancer of the uterine lining. I'll explain more about this later. What's important to understand is that the 2004 WHI study found that Premarin taken alone did not cause an increased risk of breast cancer and might actually decrease breast cancer risk. Premarin alone also didn't increase the risk of heart disease. Unfortunately, the media and many healthcare providers did not distinguish between the risks and benefits of Premarin versus Prempro, or the age at which either of these medications was begun. So women were led to believe that using estrogen in any form was a losing proposition. Even if the treatment could likely relieve their menopausal symptoms, It could potentially cost them their health or even their lives. More and more women began thinking, my symptoms are making me uncomfortable, embarrassed, miserable, tired, foggy, less interested in sex, less effective at work, gain weight, or incredibly moody. You fill in the blank. But they won't last forever. I can tough it out. How do you feel about estrogen? Are you certain that whatever the benefits, no matter how great, it isn't worth the risk and worry of taking it? Perhaps you're like my patient Jennifer, who came in saying, I'm not taking estrogen. I'm a strong woman. I can get through this. I want to change that mindset. The existing way of thinking has created a brain drain for women. Nearly 15 years of menopausal side effects that could have been avoided and that, as you will discover, have robbed millions of women of quality of life and advancement at work. That's why it's so important for you to be informed. Or are you afraid or confused to consider taking estrogen because of the things you've heard about it? Are you wondering, is estrogen safe for me? Is it worth the potential risks? How long should I take it? Which one? What dose? When should I start taking it? When should I stop taking it? Why doesn't somebody figure this out and explain it to me so I don't have to worry? The Estrogen Window answers all these questions and more, so you'll be empowered with the right facts and knowledge to discuss with your doctor or other healthcare provider. Given the current level of confusion, the more you understand, the more likely you will be to get the right treatment, or for that matter, any treatment at all. As a physician who specializes in this area, I've watched as a generation of women and their healthcare providers struggled with those same questions and concerns. It's no wonder. Many newer medical reports have come out since the first WHI study that also suggested taking estrogen is a huge risk. And once something becomes a fact, quote unquote, opinions change slowly. But before the 2002 WHI report, the truth then was that estrogen was safe and helpful for almost all women. And then suddenly, it wasn't. As Mark Twain once said, all generalizations are inaccurate, including this one. I was determined to figure out why there was so much confusion about estrogen. I needed to know for Sharon and for my patients. How could the same medication that was so helpful and lowered the risk of certain diseases also be dangerous and a ticking medical time bomb? After looking more carefully at the original 2002 WHI report and culling nuggets of information from it and the 2004 study and from hundreds of other reports, as well as continuously interviewing the authors who wrote most of the papers in my capacity as editor of My Menopause magazine, I uncovered piece after piece of a large puzzle. I found a different truth, one that makes sense out of all the confusion. There are two parts to understanding the estrogen window. The first is that Prem-Pro and Premarin are two very different medications, and as you will learn, they present two very different sets of risks. It was the Provera in the Prem-Pro, not Premarin, that was associated with most of the negative findings, which I explain later. The second part is to eliminate the remaining confusion, contradiction, and consternation. A simple concept that explains how to minimize the risks and negative findings about estrogen, yet maximize its benefits. It's a concept so simple to understand that by the end of the estrogen window, you will be empowered with the knowledge to decide whether estrogen is a treatment that you could and should consider with confidence. In fact, you'll discover that not taking estrogen may increase your risk of the very illnesses that are currently making you avoid it. After reading The Estrogen Window, you won't have to feel that treating your most worrisome menopausal symptoms that are lowering the quality and the quantity of your life randomly exposes you to serious risks. All you have to do is understand that you have an estrogen window, a window of time in which estrogen poses minimal risks and maximum benefits. After that window of time closes, outcomes change, and estrogen can expose you to lesser benefits with potentially much greater risks. With what you discover in the estrogen window, you will be able to understand how the information about taking estrogen became so confusing, why it doesn't have to be that way, and how estrogen can improve your life. You'll understand the differences between Premarin, or other estrogens taken alone, and Prem-Pro, or combinations of estrogen plus natural or synthetic progesterone, and the difference between oral and transdermal, taken through the skin, and synthetic and bioidentical estrogen. You'll also understand when estrogen is not the best choice for you and discover alternative treatments that may help you reduce your symptoms. And that is really good news, because once you discover your estrogen window, you won't feel you have to grin and bear the hot flashes, brain fog, vaginal dryness, weight gain, and other symptoms of menopause. You won't have to unknowingly expose your body to an increased risk of Alzheimer's disease, heart disease, osteoporosis, breast cancer, and early aging of skin. Whether you're in perimenopause, early menopause, menopause, or postmenopause, you will know how to discuss ET and EPT with your healthcare provider. You will become a messenger for helping your friends and family members get the treatment they need. It's time to stop treatment as usual. It's time to stop depending on whether your healthcare provider has time or the latest information to help you determine if estrogen is right for you. With the information you're about to discover, you'll be able to evaluate estrogen as you would any treatment option and have a good idea whether it is a good choice or too risky. You'll be able to choose ET or EPT logically. You should be able to consider your treatment and decide whether it's a good choice or a risky one for you. Imagine how empowering that will feel. For well more than a decade, millions of women have avoided taking any form of estrogen, and a surprising percentage of healthcare providers still avoid prescribing it. As you read through the estrogen window, you will discover that not taking estrogen in some instances can have some significant negative effects on your health that you can avoid. With this book, your estrogen window will be thrown wide open, so a new conversation about the benefits of Premarin or Prem-Pro, or their comparables, can begin. Some doctors are once again beginning to endorse estrogen for appropriate candidates with significant symptoms. We're entering another major transition in women's health, and when armed with the information in the estrogen window, you will be at the forefront of the discussion and can help lead the way. The point of the estrogen window is not to tell all women to take estrogen, or that estrogen is right for you. But once you have the knowledge and awareness raised in the estrogen window, you can talk to your healthcare provider. My goal is to raise awareness of the estrogen window so that if you want to take estrogen to help alleviate your symptoms or to prevent certain diseases, you will understand that there is a window of opportunity, the estrogen window, in which taking estrogen can be highly effective with the least potential for a negative outcome. Imagine really understanding the issues surrounding estrogen so that you're not afraid or anxious about taking it. Imagine feeling in control and comfortable about your decision. Estrogen and estrogen plus progesterone or synthetic progesterone will be explained in detail. But for now, know that estrogen is a naturally occurring hormone that affects almost every organ in a woman's body. I'm going to go through each issue: breast, brain, heart, bones, weight, skin, bladder, vagina, and tell exactly how estrogen will positively affect each one. As astrophysicist Neil deGrasse Tyson said when discussing America's first trip to the moon, "We went to the moon and we discovered the Earth." With the estrogen window, I want you to learn about your estrogen window and through that, discover how estrogen can affect your entire body and your future health. You will learn the good about estrogen, the bad about it, and most importantly, the timing of it. How important is estrogen? Estrogen stimulates growth and renewal in tissues as diverse as bone, brain, bladder, skin, and vagina. If taken at the right time, estrogen improves blood flow, brings nutrition and oxygen to cells, removes free radicals, and fights inflammation. Think of estrogen as playing a supporting role in maintaining the female body's ecosystem. Lower estrogen levels are responsible for the hot flashes, night sweats, weight gain, and vaginal dryness of menopause that affects so many women. But even more insidiously, low estrogen levels can take a toll on most of the body's organs. When production begins to decrease or stops completely as women head into, through, and beyond menopause, the tissues that estrogen once supported slowly break down. Falling estrogen levels also increase a woman's risk of heart disease, Alzheimer's disease, and other cognitive issues, and osteoporosis and resulting bone fractures. These dangerous conditions come with the risk of two unpleasant side effects: lower quality of life and premature death. Yet, as a longtime Harvard-educated OBGYN who has spent nearly 20 years teaching at Harvard and nearly another decade at the University of Massachusetts directing the complicated menopause program, and who has treated more than 10,000 patients, I've found that when it comes to menopause, there exists a pervasive fear of dying prematurely as a result of taking supplemental estrogen. This thinking often leads women to refuse ET and EPT that contain estrogen, and for many of their doctors, to refuse to prescribe it. For the sake of clarity and accuracy, we're going to talk about estrogen only and estrogen plus either progesterone or synthetic progesterone as two different things. The research I've done has allowed me to help Sharon and thousands of my patients. Now I want to help you and share with you a new way to think about estrogen and how to approach whether or not estrogen is right for you. By conducting a broad review and analysis, I was able to create a complete and accurate picture about estrogen and menopause. The results? There are two different types of estrogen-containing medications, and there is a safe way to use them that maximizes their benefits and minimizes their risks. And when to take estrogen and gain its benefits has to do with knowing when your individual estrogen window is open. Imagine that instead of worrying about whether or not to take estrogen as though the risks and benefits were gambling at a casino, you could know your best individual window to most safely gain the potential benefits before that window closes. And if you take advantage of your estrogen window, you will increase your chances of improving the quality of your physical and mental health, and you won't have to endure all the ongoing unpleasant symptoms of menopause. Most of the 2 million American women who enter menopause each year want to know how to alleviate the disruptive menopausal symptoms. When estrogen is the answer, women are reluctant to take it because they've heard so many negative things about it. Likewise, many healthcare providers avoid mentioning estrogen because they're relying on outdated information about perceived risks. Perhaps they don't have time for a lengthy discussion on estrogen therapy. Or given how busy they are and their limited amount of time, they're doing the best they can, but they don't know when their patient should take estrogen to gain lifelong benefits. The estrogen window explains that women who replace lost estrogen at a specific time in their lives during their estrogen window can minimize the debilitating symptoms of menopause and enjoy a healthy, vibrant life. The estrogen window also explains the question, when should I take estrogen to gain the most benefits? Taking ET or EPT as the body's natural production begins to decrease has repeatedly been shown to be the most protective and effective opportunity. The estrogen window shows you how to determine the best time for you to take estrogen-containing medications and which are the best treatment options for you. Explains why millions of women unnecessarily and prematurely abandoned Premarin and Provera that were protecting them from breast cancer, heart disease, dementia, and more. Clarifies the risks and benefits of estrogen and how to know whether estrogen is right for you. Answers your questions and prepares you to speak with your doctor about ET and EPT and heart disease, osteoporosis, dementia, and more. Anchors a personal menopause breakthrough with understanding your estrogen window so you don't have to grin and bear the symptoms and consequences of menopause. Throughout the estrogen window, I refer to the symptoms and stories of specific patients. To protect their identities, I've changed their names and combined their stories into composites of the thousands of patients I've treated. But all the patient comments and examples are ones I've heard over and over and are used to illustrate a point. And they'll help you identify examples of the very things you may be coping with in your life. When you look at recently published books on the topic of menopause, just a few mention estrogen in the title. Even though falling estrogen levels produce the symptoms, hot flashes, night sweats, mood swings, irritability, brain fog, fractured sleep, and sexual issues that plague women during this time. With the most recent research and newest information, the estrogen window takes the emotions out of your decision and sets the record straight about how ET and EPT can have positive effects if taken at the right time of this new stage of life. The estrogen window shows you the many positive things that estrogen can do for your body and total well-being before, during, and after menopause. When the details of the WHI study were released in 2002, I watched as hundreds of my patients threw away their estrogen-containing medications. and they suffered. If they had known what you're about to read in the Estrogen Window, their lives would have been...
Sample complete. Ready to continue?